the education system in New York State. That's what your challenge. That's your challenge for the evening. Economics, which goes along with that philosophy, how that marries together, and elementary algebra, which confuses us all. As well as serving as a social studies chairperson, later as an assistant superintendent of curriculum, instruction and assessment. He is a true advocate for the public education and champion for all of our students, rich and poor alike, making sure all aspects of a student education are provided. You know, and I'm not pushing, but talk fast. Don't stutter. David?
Yeah. Thank you. Actually, you don't have to worry. My comments are relatively brief, and I thought I was going to have trouble following Dr. Rella and the two fine women who spoke earlier, but Daniel, I don't know, that's a real tough act to follow. This goes to show you don't have to speak for a long time to have a big impact, right? So, 7 of the best of my 30 years in education were spent in this school district, and as a matter of fact, my last time in this stage was more recent than Paul. Certainly, I think it was a budget vote or something I came up to the stage. But among other things, I remember fondly working with teachers throughout Patchogue, Medford, and throughout my career. My passion lies in the arts, childhood play, literacy, but as a superintendent, I must also keep my sights on funding as a twin target. I also want to make mention of the good, great work of Paul Pontieri. I remember 10 and 12 years ago when I was coming to work in the Patchogue Medford community, his dedication, which continues to this very day, to build a strong community. And that is partly what's threatened. It's our children are being threatened, our communities are being threatened. So I was given the task of speaking about the GEA. As I said, not my passion, but I feel it's important. But I do have one I think, very important message that we all in this room, in the gym, and whoever might see this must not lose sight of. And that is, we must not, absolutely not allow our lawmakers to cut a deal to trade money for any of these misguided reforms. Because, you see, they've kind of set us up. It's like a train wreck. It's actually coming from both ends of the track, okay? The Gap Elimination Adjustment, or GEA, was first introduced in 2009-10 when it was known as the Deficit Reduction Assessment. At the time, what it does do is it reduces at the end of the amount of age that each district is entitled to receive. There's a minus sign, and it takes away that amount of money afterwards. So you're getting reduced from that which you were owed. I'll explain in a little more detail. So it was designed to partially offset the state's then, in 2009, $10 billion budget deficit. Well, if you look now, we've got a $5 billion surplus in New York State. So this year alone, Patchogue Medford received $6.5 million less than it was due in state aid. Suffolk County received $138 million less at a time when we have a tax levy cap as well. The 4-year impact is as follows. Over $33 million in reductions to what Patchogue Medford was due, and a whopping $1.2 billion earmarked for Suffolk County. Again, mostly under the pressure of a tax cap. So something is wildly wrong with this, obviously. Many of you have been around long enough to have heard a call for mandate relief. The amount of testing and other SED reform proposals have been either unfunded or underfunded as a result of recent mandates. You know, I spoke briefly about the fact that I'm passionate about the arts, and I know that if Joel Ratner, the former director of music art in the Brentwood School District, were here, he would be here. Unfortunately, he passed away recently, and he was a fierce, fierce fighter for public education and the arts. And I was at a play last night in Greenport, in the Greenport School District, and the passion that was exhibited there, the cuts in education, the underfunding that's happening across the state is nothing short of unconscionable. You know, interestingly enough, we hear all these attacks about schools. Every year there's a cost and outcomes report that's generated, and year after year we hear about this over and over again about the success of Long Island schools. If Long Island schools were its own state, we'd be ranked first or near the top in almost every conceivable category. You know, as another example of the hypocrisy of what's going on, there's actually legislation that calls for a diversion of public education dollars in the amount of $300 million in tax credits over the next 3 years to private and religious schools by reducing taxes of the wealthy individuals and corporations. We have been looking at this issue of doing more for less for a number of years. We now face the challenge of preserving programs to fend off what districts are starting to face. Not just fiscal insolvency, but educational insolvency, by not preparing the next generation of students. The solution is not to impose misguided, poorly conceived schemes like the overuse of standardized testing. Rather, it is to honor the work of educators and local communities, to support them appropriately and fairly. So, in the words of my older son, it's important that we let him know. Let him know. Raise your voice by collaborating with others and write letters to the editor. Stay strong and have the courage to stand up to the haters, because you know what? The haters will always hate. Attend Board of Education meetings and let them know. Let them know that you stand for public education, properly funded and supported, not attacked and vilified. Thank you.
David, thank you very much.